Greetings and salutations out there. It's your humble correspondent, El Jefe, David DeFord, as they call me. I'm here with Mr. Joseph. Joseph, say hi today.
Good morning, everyone. Hi.
So Joseph is participating in kind of content I like to do every once in a while. It's kind of like a open mic one-on-one consultation session where Joseph is presumably an agent who's come here with questions that he has about the business. Could be general or specific. And the purpose of this is for me to spend 20 to 25 minutes answering his questions. So I'm going to hand this over to Joseph. Joseph, you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and then jump into your questions on how I can help you.
Yes, certainly. So I'm Joseph Mishko. I'm based in Central Indiana, just south of Indianapolis, and been in the insurance business. In August, it'll be 3 years.
Great.
And so kind of started out with a larger IMO, doing a lot of mortgage protection. Did that for about almost 2 years, and then kind of transitioned more into final expense, more of the senior market. So I've been doing almost exclusively final expense for about a year.
Okay, good.
And I cold door knock everybody. That's all I do. I grab a data list and a zip code that looks good and just knock on doors, have conversations with people. And it's actually worked out pretty well. Surprisingly. And so really, I mean, my questions really have to do with just trying to maximize those door knocks. My plan. So AHIP's coming up in June, I think is when for 2023, I want to take AHIP to be able to start involving Medicare Advantage, and the, what is it, like your DSNPs. That's kind of the folks that I'm running into.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Primarily. And so just trying to find the best plan moving forward, how to do that. I've talked with different people, like, you can get set up at, doctor's offices and stuff like that. And it's like, and I don't want to impinge on what I'm doing now with the door knock. I'm out 4 days a week. So about 30 hours in the field, goals, between 1,500, 2K APV. And that's been hitting pretty, pretty good, but just whether it's at the door, and I know that there's rules and all that stuff. I don't want to, get in trouble or anything like that, but just trying to maximize each door knock, each conversation I have. And I'm very relational. So it's like, I'm trying to build a very solid clientele, build relationships with these folks, serve them in any way I can, but just involving that Medicare, that dual eligible stuff, just like some guidance on the best way to do that. And just, want to see what you have to say about that.
Sure. So, I mean, I love Medicare, as and you're making, I think, a smart move to diversify your income stream from, the active kind you got to go out there and knock on doors literally to get, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. But having Medicare pays a lifetime residual. So it's good that you're falling into that and doing some commitment to it. Here's the thing, though. If you do the Medicare Advantage route, which if you've got DSNP, guys, what that means is like Medicaid, Medicare type clientele. They're not buying what's called Medicare supplements. They're buying a Medicare Advantage plan. And there's a whole slew of rules around Medicare Advantage that you don't have around Medicare supplements. One of those rules is in the nature of how you prospect. So bottom line, there's no cold calling allowed when you're doing Medicare Advantage, bar none. So there's no way that you're going to be able to do what you're doing, cold calling and generating a sale for Medicare Advantage. Eventually, at some point, you'll be caught and maybe you'll get a slap on the wrist. Maybe you'll lose your AHIP credentialing, right? It could be that serious. So that rule came down about 10 years ago at the advent of Medicare Advantage when there were no rules. And what seniors found themselves in were all these plans that were inappropriate. And like the government does many times, they put a crushing over emphasis on the business practices. And it's recently loosened a little bit, but still the cold call rules apply. Would you like me to give you kind of some suggestions as far as prospecting methods that do work, Joseph?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
So I'll go through just a quick litany. If there's any follow-ups here, or if you want to take it another direction, let me know. First of all, I would be talking to all the people that you talked to in the past that you've sold a policy to. All those people you can go back, you have prior existing business relationships with. You can go sit down with them and talk to them about buying a Medicare Advantage plan from you. So everybody you've sold that's at any point over the last couple of years since you started, those are all people who are viable prospects that you should absolutely follow up and talk to, because a lot of them will buy. You'd be shocked how many people have inappropriate inferior plans. And so you'll get experience. Those will be the easiest sales, right? They already know, like, and trust you. They're willing to let you come back in. That's where I would start. That's kind of where you're going to learn the implementation of the strategy of selling Medicare Advantage. Second of all, you can go, there's some free methodologies you can use to generate leads. There's a slew of them, really. One thing we teach more on the final expense side, but definitely works on the Medicare side, is a seminar driven strategy. You go into a speaking engagement type of thing, where maybe you're at a senior living facility, independent living facility, and you go in there and you do a conversation or a talk about Medicare. And from there, you generate prospects and go sit down with them. Now, it's a little bit different with Medicare Advantage. You can't, there's rules with what you can say and how you do things. But the reality is that there is a lack of agents willing to do the volume of speaking engagements available. And so when you get licensed and ready to sell Medicare Advantage, one of the things that I advise agents to do is talk to your regional representatives for the carriers that are major in your area, maybe Cigna, Humana, whatever. Get to know them, tell them your goals, tell them what you want to accomplish, and start talking to them early. Because one of the things that they're looking for are agents who want to do seminars. They're going to want to talk to you, and they can put things together. A lot of the reps even will do the seminars for you. It's crazy. You don't even have to do the seminar. You just have to sell the business. And what's cool about the Medicare Advantage market is it's becoming more agent friendly. These carriers know you guys got options as agents, and they will work with you, and they'll want you to write as much as you can. But if you're a broker, hopefully you will be when you do this, you'll have other carriers too, depending on the client's situation. And they're okay with that. You don't have to be married to them entirely for it to be a profitable relationship. So those are kind of the free strategies. I can get into paid strategies, but do you have any questions so far? Anything I can clarify?
So yeah, so I mean, and I really appreciate those two suggestions. Those are actually two things I wasn't thinking about. So especially going back to the previous clients, but as far as, like, sometimes I've had folks ask me in a sit for final expense, they'll say, "Hey, do you do anything with or like Medicare will come up?" And you're looking at the situation, you're looking at Advantage folks, just, based on situation. And I know there are rules based on that, but, like, as far as is that something, as long as we're compliant, even just, leapfrogging from that?
So this is a gray area right now. We try to keep it as black and white as possible. But there's this gray area. It's when you're working a non-Medicare lead and they ask you about Medicare, that's where it's not 100% clear of whether or not it's non-compliant or compliant to get their approval to do what's called a scope of appointment and then start talking about Medicare Advantage. One of the things that we do is that we wear pins that say, "Ask me about Medicare." If you wear a mask, like the best mask I ever seen says, "Ask me about Medicare." That's wonderful. And then what the rules say compliantly is if they ask you about it, then as far as we're concerned, that opens the door. But the thing here, though, Joseph, is that we're working leads. We're working a lead they sent back. Now, you're cold calling, if this is what you're describing, for final expense. Is that still in that gray area, or is that black? I don't know. I don't really know about that answer. I'm privy to say play it safe and say that's probably in the area you don't want to be in. But So the nature and how you start it. Go ahead.
I have a fellow agent that actually gave me one of the Humana "Ask Me About Medicare" pins, and I felt kind of like, I don't know if I want to, like, advertise specifically for Humana, but at least the concept of, like, I'm at the door knocking, and it's like, well, if they have their insurance taken care of, they're probably thinking about this. So as far as, like, if I had that and I'm wearing that and they initiate, they're like, "Hey, tell me more about that." We're good as far as what you're saying.
The only thing, again, the cold call is the thing that worries me, because if I picture myself, remember, your licensing, your credentialing is a privilege. It's not a right. Our wonderful superiors and the governments give this option to us to go out here and help people, right? They can take it away if they want to for any reason they want. But I imagine if I'm up in front of a judge, right, and I had to explain my actions and say, well, so why you're being accused today of breaking the rules. I see here that you're cold calling, okay, yeah, you are for final expense, but then how much of that turns into Medicare, right? See, so then it becomes like, okay, are you really cold calling for final expense, or is it really Medicare, right? So to me, it's just, it's that gray area that there's like a sense of being uncomfortable with. I'm sure there are people who do it. That doesn't make it right or make it safe to do. The better play is to get some kind of engagement from them, like in a seminar where they request information, or to use some kind of lead where you can say, hey, look, they sent this back. They requested information. It's a little bit of a safer play, because cold calling flat out is not allowed directly for Medicare Advantage.
Sure. So but going back to your first suggestion, as far as following up with the previous FE clients, that's not a problem. So should I call them and
prior business relationship is what they call it. You'll learn about this as you
just tell them like, hey, I helped you with this policy a year ago. Hey, just want to let you know I'm adding this to, that serve my clients. Can I help you with that? Just something like that's not a problem.
Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely. I'd call and say, hey, my name is Dave Duford. I sold you that final expense plan. We're now offering help with Medicare. There's these great new plans to give grocery cards out. If you qualify, they also have plans where you can get your Part B premium back. I'm going to be in your area tomorrow. Why don't we stop by, say at 10, or does 2 work better? I mean, it's exactly what I would say. Wow. And that's completely compliant. You still need to get there and get a scope. You still need to get their permission to ultimately talk about it. But prior business relationships is something that's definably okay and compliant.
Sweet. Oh, awesome. Awesome. So
you want me to cover leads, kind of like some paid lead options here?
Yeah, sure. Definitely.
Okay. So the one thing I'll tell to get into the paid leads side of the business, the nice thing that you're going to find with Medicare is there's way more money that's coming directly from the carriers to support your efforts in Medicare and purchasing leads that you won't see in the mortgage protection or final expense market. What's happened in the Medicare market over the last couple of years has been an attempt to consolidate the sales activity to call centers. We call them third-party, like operating companies, whatever they're called, third-party originators. So they're the ones playing these ads, like the Joe Namath ads, the William Shatner ads, Montel Williams, call us in for the best policy I've ever seen. But there's been a ton of complaints that have come in. There's been like a tripling of the complaints this year. And then on top of that, these call centers can't retain business worth a flip. And so what's happening is they're getting the business, but they're losing it because the people that are employed in these businesses aren't agents like in the independent sense. They're just there for a job until the AEP or OEP ends. All of this is to say, I think a lot of these carriers are starting to recognize your role, Joseph, in this. You're an agent that develops relationships. Not only can you close business, but you know how to keep it. And that's the thing that makes agents like an integral part of the Medicare system, because it's the retention that makes profitability happen in this business, not just like flipping a person every year to a new carrier, right? So the point is, all of this is to say, I think you're going to see some direction change from the money that's being funneled to the call centers, which have failed really across the board in a big way, the big ones especially, to more to the independent agent. So a couple of things I'll tell you. So I got some guys that are I got a guy in the Midwest. He's been given $30,000 from a major carrier just this year alone to fund his lead purchase campaigns. He can do whatever he wants with it to spend that money on leads. And that's from one carrier he does about a fourth to a third of his business with. It's not like he's married to that carrier. Plus he gets co-op money from others, okay, because he produces so much business. And I've got a guy here locally. He got $2,500 from one carrier. The carrier rep even offered to pay for all of his direct mail fresh leads, all of them. He's getting $1,000 a month from another carrier, just as long as he produces 8 policies monthly. Like, that's easy if you're running 20, 25 leads a week, direct mail. So I say all this because I don't want to presume here, but you've purposely went the cold calling route. And I'm sure there's good reasons. You probably dealt with leads before. You probably been up that road. There's probably a story there.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. But what you'll find is in the Medicare side, if you're good, I'm not great, but if you're good, you should be paying little, if anything, for your leads. I mean, there's a lot of my top producers don't pay anything for the direct mail leads because they write so much business.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I didn't know that was the case. That these situations you've been describing. As far as when it comes to, because I definitely am not looking to get out of the final expense.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the people. I love the whole thing. But as far as like division of work, as far as like, we only have X amount of hours in our week that we can use for that. What would you recommend as far as like?
Great question. So a friend in the business years ago, Christopher Westfall, he's sold his Medicare business, very, very successful. He went the telesales route on the Medicare supplement side before anybody else did. But a few people, if you've been here long enough in the business, he used to be in final expense back in, I think, 2009, 2010. And he kind of came to this revelation, like, I got to do Medicare because that's where the passive income is. And so his story, if I'm hopefully it's correct, he started Medicare, but he didn't do all in. One of the biggest issues with successful agents starting in Medicare that transitioned from final expenses doing too much too soon. Why? Because the cash flow situation is a lot lower than what you're going to find in final expense. So you got to gradually contribute your time towards Medicare, and then eventually, if you want to, go all in. So what Chris did is I think he worked like 5 days a week, 1 day a week was Medicare, did that for a couple of months, then made it 2 days. And then over the course of a year was all in on Medicare. So if you think about your schedule, that's kind of what I would think of. Again, I've got a guy I'm thinking of out of Central Virginia that made the switch to Medicare. And he said, Dave, if I could do it all over again, I did 75% of my activity at the end of the year with Medicare, 25% final expense. This is during the annual election period, the biggest time to sell. He said, if I do it again, I do 25% final or 25% Medicare and 75% final expense. So he, again, a guy who wrote close to 200,000 last year, very good numbers for a first-year agent. He recognized, okay, I moved too fast on the Medicare front. So again, easy way to do it, Joseph. For those people that you close, go, off, by the way, before you leave, hey, I'm actually going to be out here next week or on Friday. I'm helping people with their Medicare. Can I come back later? So those people you close final expense on, set a appointment in the future to review the Medicare. Most of them have a plan. So that way you can get back in the door. You can't do it in the same appointment. You got to do another appointment. And then I would take maybe, if you're doing a lead program, I take 10, 15, 20 leads a week over the course of 2 days, maybe 1 day. You probably don't even need 20 leads, probably get by with 10 or 15. And just go knock on those direct mail lead doors and run those appointments. And kind of as you get your bearings there, as you see fit and cash flow looks good, just start to gradually increase the amount of days that you're doing Medicare. And what you'll find ultimately is that you can sell final expense off of Medicare leads. It's the same people, it's the same exact people you're talking to right now. The difference is when you run those direct mail appointments, if you close a Medicare plan, then you can't sell them final expense. You have to go back and see them on another appointment. Now, again, there's no clarity on like how long you have to wait. It can be an appointment like 5 minutes after the other one ends. It sounds silly, but that's the government rules after all.
Yeah.
You can sell final expense to them on that first call if that doesn't go anywhere on Medicare. So you will find that business all over the place in those kind of appointments and leads and however you buy them or do seminars or something like that.
Yeah. Just real quick, going back to what you were saying about this guy that you were saying is like, doing 200K a year, and would say if I wanted to start over, was he even referring like during AEP? Because I was thinking, okay, during AEP, I could just exclusively, because that's your big time, right? But was he saying that even with AEP still limiting it to 25%?
Yeah. So check this out.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know this getting into it. You write your deals during AEP. You're not getting paid till February. That's the problem.
Okay.
Why?
Right.
Because these deals are effective January 1st. So if you write a deal October 15th when AEP starts, it doesn't go into force until January. And then you have to wait a month until the policy is still effective to end up getting paid. So that's part of the problem. You're used to getting paid within a couple of days. Now I got to wait a couple of months if you started with AEP. So that's kind of why he recommended that. You got to slow it down.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool, man. That's really helpful.
Cool, man. Anything else? Got a few more minutes here. Any last questions for me?
No, I mean, that was really the big thing, just, you know, how to transition into this, and
Right.
you know, gave some really good pointers.
Well, last thing I'll say, man, is you're right on the cusp of where you need to be. I mean, everybody I've talked to that's come from final expense that have done Medicare, they all say, I wish I would have done it sooner. The main reason being is just what you will find is, I mean, 500 clients, which you could get in 2 years if you really try. That's $150,000 in income, annual income for life. That's, what is that, 12,000 a month and change? I mean, that's a real deal. That's not just, you know, hypothetical. And that business is all over the place if you just go after it. And being paid like that on an autopilot it's a life changer. Yeah, you'll still work, but you don't have to if you don't want to for a little while, you know. So it's a cool thing.
Sure. Well, and things like, even with like the wintertime, door knocking's not too great, you know, when it's
sunlight,
you know, 5 degrees. Exactly. So just trying to balance that out. I mean, now it's great. You're walking around, people are on their porch, you can talk to anybody, you know. I mean, right. Hey, you know, but just we did that transition. And cool. Excellent. Well, Joseph, I appreciate you being here. If there's anything I can ever do to serve you, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help. I certainly appreciate it. And I just wanted to say real quick, you know, and I definitely mean this, I'm not just saying it, but it's like your service to this industry, I appreciate it. I mean, as far as like the videos, I mean, I'm not part of your agency, but just being somebody on the outside, like just the resource you are to somebody who is just trying to get started on his own outside of, you know, your larger, you know, IMO type situation, which we've talked about, you know, that kind of situation, just trying to get your feet wet, trying to figure things out. It's been an awesome resource. I certainly appreciate you. Absolutely, Joseph. Take care, man. All right. You too. Thanks.